Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast. My name is Sami Hajasad, and with me, as always, is my good friend and fellow automotive journalist, Benjamin Hunting. Say hi to the people, Ben.
Greetings, human listeners.
Greetings to everyone. If this is the first time you're listening to our podcast, thank you for trying something new. I will reiterate, Ben and I are a pair of automotive journalists, but more important than any of that is the fact that we're very good friends, right, Ben?
Sammy, recently, another friend of mine, who's not you, introduced me to a website that threatens to bankrupt me.
Who is this friend and what is this website?
Her name is Katie, and the website is bookdepot.ca.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This is not sponsored content.
No, I have been hearing about Book Depot nonstop.
So she posted these unboxing videos of these books she'd ordered on Instagram, and I messaged her, and she's like, you got to check it out. The prices are crazy. I got like 7 books for $50. And I have a huge book habit. It's probably the thing I spend. No, I mean, obviously I spend the most money on cars, but outside of cars, it's probably what I spend most of my disposable income on. And so I go to the site and it's essentially overstock books, I am assuming.
Yeah.
And everything is like $7 to $10.
They've got like a dot on them or something. That's what one of my friends said.
A dot? I don't know what that means.
Like a weird dot on them.
In any case, like normally the list price for these books is anywhere between like $25 and $50. And I currently have 29 books in my cart.
Yeah.
Which is too many books. Because I'm doing some holiday shopping, I guess, even though I'm very minimal about that kind of thing, because I prefer to spend time with my family rather than do the whole consumerist thing. But in any case, books are an exception to that. Anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you this. It's just it's I know that once we're done recording this show, I'm going to go back to the website and I'm going to add more books to my cart. And then it's going to be a staggeringly huge amount of money that I will have to pay, but it's small compared to the book return I'm getting.
That's true. And it's important to tell people about your other friends and what you're doing before and after the recording so they can fill their imagination with what's going on in your life.
Absolutely no one thinks, as soon as this podcast is over, no one thinks about me, Sammy.
I wonder what Ben did after the recording, or I wonder what Ben is doing before the recording.
It's like when you turn off the TV, the people that live in the TV disappear and you don't think about them. It's the same thing with podcasts.
This week we've got a couple of cars to talk about. Do you want to plug some publications before we talk about some cars?
Pick a number from 1 to 3, and I'll tell you a publication.
3, 2.
Motor Trend. There we go. We did it.
And for me, you can go to driving.ca. You can find my recent stories there. Ben, I'm going to start this week's episode off with a review of the 2026 Hyundai Kona. And I know our listeners are probably like, here we go again, another Kona. But
Sammy,
believe it or not,
haven't we talked about the Kona like 3 times in the last 2 years?
Yeah, actually, we've been talking mostly about the electric version of the Kona.
Yeah, I think so. That was going to be my point. It's like, I think this time we're doing something actually different.
But this time, I've looked around back on the Kona that I'm testing, and it has a tailpipe, which means it's a gas-powered model.
It means some neighborhood kids went to the dollar store and bought a trick exhaust pipe and taped it to your car as like a practical joke. Possibly the funniest practical joke in the history of practical jokes.
They could have ruined my entire career. Now I'm going to do this whole story about a gas-powered electric
Let alone when you try to fill it with gas and just the interior, they'll never get that smell out.
I think the easier way to fake it would be to go and get metallic paint and dip a paper towel roll in it. No,
that's like way higher effort than just buying an off-the-shelf fake tailpipe.
That's expensive, man.
It's not that expensive. It's very reasonable. The industry is in flux. The fake tailpipe industry is in flux. They're doing their best. There's a lot of supplier changes right now.
Yeah, huge changes in that industry. Yeah. Anyways, I'm driving the Hyundai Kona. I'm going to be honest with you. Not a lot has changed with the Hyundai Kona since it was refreshed for the 2024 model year. But that isn't to say that there's not a lot to talk about. Mainly because there's a lot of cars in this whole segment. And next week we'll be talking about one of the potential competitors for the Kona in the
Don't
Nissan
spoil it.
Kicks.
Oops,
sorry.
Wow.
But I want to stick to the Kona right now, which is
everyone's just turning off because they want to wait for next week's Kicks content.
I know.
This is what happens every time you bring up the Kicks. Our download numbers plummet. Everyone just waiting it out for Kicks.
Well, let me be clear. The Kona is It's a pretty interesting car in the fact that you can get so many different models of it, and its price range, I think, varies a lot. You can get a $25,000 version of the car, and you can get a like $35,000 version of the car.
That's the US.
Yeah, that's US. In Canada, it's actually a pretty, I think it's a tighter spread or a wider spread, starting at 27 or around 29 with freight and PDI, to about 40,000 when you get they call it the N line with the ultimate package. In the US, it's known as the Limited. I've got an all-wheel drive one with, there's no trim, there's no extra packages here, so it's just a $36,000 car.
I have a question.
Hit me.
Why is limited such a popular trim level as a word? And I don't even mean just now, like on the modern landscape. It feels like limited has been around forever.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. Like, is the idea that it's at one point people thought it actually meant limited production? Is that the goal of it?
Yeah, same with like Select, right? Like it's like
but we know Select is fake, and we know limited is not limited. So like, why
the
does
next trim is going to be exclusive?
Why does it persist? No, I feel like exclusive is the kind of trim you get on like a German luxury car where they just make up terms and it doesn't really matter. And that's just how their branding works. That's fine. But limited is like the kind of, you see it on every car, like a Grand Cherokee to like
Subarus, I think, used to have limited trims.
Ford Crown Victorias, you know, like it's just been everywhere. And I don't get it. Like, it's the promise of it being limited is so obviously fake that you think that they would have stopped using it.
I know. I think that's fair. I think that's a really appropriate point. I don't know who decides which trim names make a huge difference, because we also see like S and SE, like the Kona, for example, the base model is called the SE. And other cars have the S trim as their entry-level vehicle. I don't know what makes S.
Sport Extra Limited.
Yeah, I don't know what makes S such an important
I think S is like supposed to be sporty. That's the only thing I can think of.
But what? It's on the most basic model?
Oh, it's divorced from reality, but I just think that that's what it's supposed to be. But also, I mean, Nissan Versa S, I rest my case.
Exactly.
But the other thing about limited is, as a word, technically, it might mean that vehicle is limited in its appeal, its functionality, its features. That never seems to occur to anybody on the branding side.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Anyways, this limited model I have is different from the other versions of the Kona, mainly because it features a turbocharged 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine that makes 190 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. I'm going to bring this up because, as far as I can tell, there might not be another N version of the Kona right now. I think the Kona N is done.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I mean, I think the Kona N was pretty cool, but now it's gone. So now we've got the most powerful version of the Kona you can get has 190 horsepower. The model I have has all-wheel drive. Something really important to mention with the Kona is that unlike while base models use a CVT, the top trims with this turbocharged engine get a 8-speed automatic. And overall, this car is really, really good to drive. I would call it super mainstream feeling, even with the turbocharged engine. And I mean, in Canada, this is called the N line. So I think they're trying to make it feel or seem like a more sportier car. It doesn't really feel sporty, but it is like a good compact. It's really responsive. And I don't know. I guess in some ways you might be expecting something closer to like a Honda Civic Si. This isn't like that at all.
I don't think. Why would someone have that expectation? Because
I think the Elantra Sport or N line, I don't know what they're called now, and what trim level in which market, does feel closer to a Civic Si,
but you're saying
without the manual.
But you're saying that the Kona would feel like a Civic Si?
Yeah, no, it doesn't translate up to the Kona. That's what I'm saying. That's
and I don't think anyone shopping for a Kona is looking at a Civic. Like, I think that if you would probably be more looking at an HRV or something.
Yeah, please don't mention the HRV again.
HRV.
I don't want you to do that. This car is significantly, I will say, this car is significantly better than a Honda HRV. I cannot stand the Honda HRV. I had the Acura version of it a short while ago, and it still felt like an HRV at times, just with more power. The Kona is much more responsive. It doesn't have that. I think one of the major parts here is that CVT. There is no CVT in this turbocharged model. So as a result, there's none of that like drone or groan that you get from a lot of entry-level cars that feature a CVT. And so I guess it feels better, you know? Like it gives off a better, more premium feel with a relatively affordable car.
So what did you like the most about this car? I mean, it's been on the market for a couple of years past the refresh. You said this is a very competitive segment. Is there anything that stands out that would send people towards the Kona? I feel like most of the hype about the Kona these days is around the EV.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've driven it a lot.
Yep.
We like it. It has some issues, most of them pricing related. But for the gas-powered version, I mean, is it stuff about this model that makes you recommend it over other, I mean, excluding the HRV, over other models?
Yeah, let's talk about this segment altogether. I think the Crosstrek is one of the ideal choices if fuel efficiency and space are on your like must-haves or priorities on your list, and it comes with standard all-wheel drive. The Kona does not, so that's always been one of the top choices in that segment for me. I'm not a huge lover of the Corolla Cross or the HRV. The Kicks used to be something else. We'll talk about that next week. And I think the Kona is a really solid like second choice to or like runner up to the Subaru. So,
and what's the Kia version of the Kona?
Isn't it the Seltos?
Do we still have a Seltos?
I think so.
Because we lost didn't we lose there's another Hyundai that's like below the
Venue.
Kona, and that's gone, I think.
I believe so.
So I was wondering if the Seltos was going to meet a similar fate. I'm not sure.
No, the Venue apparently is still being sold in the US, $20,550.
20,000?
Yeah, that's how much it is.
That's amazing. I thought it was a little bit more expensive than that.
We used to have sub $20,000 cars, but
well, the only one is the Versa.
Yeah, now we got to be excited with the Venue. That's $20,550.
You know, the Venue, I've never driven.
22 with I think with freight and delivery. Or
have you ever driven one?
Which?
A Venue.
Yes,
I've never driven one.
I will tell you the thing that happened to me with the Venue is that I tried to close it using the hand. I tried to close the trunk using the handle inside the trunk. Do you know what I mean? There's like a little like latch.
Yeah, like a grip thing. Yeah,
and the door and the like panel fell off. It was not fastened into it. It was not like snapped into its place.
So the Venue is one of my white whales, like the Genesis
I think
G90.
you're okay. You're okay not driving it.
It's just a car I've never been able to book.
It's such a strange car to have. I mean, this replaces the Accent.
I think it looks kind of good, though.
It looks great.
I saw one today out on the road, and I was like, this is what a Kia Soul could have looked like, but didn't. You know, it's like a smaller Soul. How dare you?
The Soul is wonderful.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, the Venue is like a different take on the Soul, a different take on like the Nissan Cube. Like all these cars that are disappearing from the market, these like upright wagon-esque cars that we don't have anymore. Scion XB.
Yeah.
You know?
The Cube brand.
The Element.
Elements were so important to everything.
I think that I recently wrote an article for Auto Trader. I'm not sure if it's been published yet, where I was talking about vehicle names that should be revived now that that's what we're doing. And I thought that Honda should bring the Element back as an entry-level off-roader.
But they'd have to call it the Element Trail Sport.
Yeah. Or the L Sport. Shout out to L.
Anyways, yeah, the alternative to the Kona would be the Seltos. I don't love the Seltos. I don't know what it is about it. It's always felt a little bit tinny, unrefined compared to the Kona.
Well, it's because you weren't driving the limited.
Potentially. I will say, what are the trim levels of the... Yeah, see, the S, obviously, is the mid-trim model. The SX is the top trim Kona Kia Seltos.
X is like the S of the S world, right? Like S and X.
You can put that anywhere.
Yeah, and T, but T is usually for turbo, but X means nothing, and S means nothing.
On their own.
And you get L. L is in case it's longer, right?
Yeah.
You get that extended wheelbase. So this is like the familiar faces you see.
Anyways, One of the things that I really appreciate about the Kona is that it does not feel super compact inside. It has no issue accommodating a rear-facing car seat in my life so far, and I think that it has really good cargo room as well. Let me give you the official numbers of that because I'm sure you'll want to know exactly how much cargo room it has. 25.5 cubic feet with the seats up and 63.7 with them down. I really appreciated that. The other thing that I want to point out is that Hyundai has moved the gear selector from between the seats to a steering mounted column. It's this weird boxy shifter that is found on all of their cars now. I think they debuted on the Ioniq. Do you know what I'm talking about? Their shifter?
The one that kind of sticks out and is hidden behind the steering wheel?
Yes.
I find that is my least favorite part of the Ioniq because you can't really see what you're doing. You can't see the position of the shifter. It's like other shifters that are on the column. Usually there's it's linked to something on the gauge cluster. And so you move it through a plane of motion and it shows you the gear that you're selecting. But from what I remember, the one on the Ioniq, you twist a little thing at the end, right?
Yeah.
And that changes your gear, but you can't really see what you're twisting.
No, you have to pay attention to the gauge cluster. I'm going to tell you, my mom visited last night, and my parents just bought a Hyundai Ioniq 5, and my mom doesn't drive it a lot, but she drove it over, and she was struggling to get the car in reverse, and it was because she kept missing this shift. It kept going to neutral and wasn't actually reversing. And I don't
think it's a dangerous feature, but I think it's an ergonomic misstep from Hyundai.
Yeah, I think if people are people have to get used to these changing gear selectors.
I don't know. I don't know if it's something you get used to. I think it's because of where it's positioned and the blind spot that it's in, it's just always going to be a hassle.
Well, Hyundai likes to do this thing where you your selections on certain stocks show up in the gauge cluster, and I believe it does that for the Ioniq. So when you put it into neutral instead of drive, it actually has a little rectangle that shows up on the gauge cluster that says P, N, and D, and it would have an extra box around the N. You just have to pay attention. Same with when you turn on the wipers or change the wiper speeds. I actually really like that. I guess tells you what you're doing.
I guess I just don't like controls that are in a blind spot. For me, it's behind a wheel is bad, or the left side of the dash between the steering wheel and the door. Mm-hmm. You have to divert attention away from the road to use oftentimes that's where you'll find fog light controls or lighting controls in general.
Oh man, Toyota's obsessed with jamming things under the vent by the
And to me, the stock on the steering column is the same thing.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to discredit your
Oh, it's just my personal opinion. I know some people they love this stock and they would marry the stock and they'd have this stock's beautiful children.
I will say that the Porsche Taycan hides its on button behind the steering wheel. You can never, and its shifter as well behind the steering wheel. You can never really see it, and that's always one of the weird things when you get into one of the cars. You're like, where do I turn it on? And you have to kind of well,
that's an us problem though.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's because we're changing cars all the time. And I often have that problem of where's the on button.
Or whether or not a car needs to be turned on.
And then you feel super unprofessional because everyone's why can't he just start the car and drive away? Isn't this his job? What's going on?
I never get questioned about my professionalism, except for on this podcast.
That's because you only pick your cars up in the dark of night.
That's right. It's the best way to do it. The reason I mentioned the gear selector is that since they moved it to the steering wheel column, it's enabled this really big storage space between the two seats. I know that sounds like a really weird thing to highlight, but this is a compact car, and usually at-hand storage in a compact car is really tight, and you end up just throwing things behind you, and you don't have to do that in this car. Unfortunately, one of the weird things about the Kona is that it has these spring-loaded supports for a cup holder. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they pop in and pop out to grasp the cup.
Yeah, so you can push these things away and it would make a very big, basically a large rectangular space to store something like a phone or a tablet or bag or whatever. But if you wanted to put a cup holder, you would press one of these buttons and a spring-loaded semicircle would fly from the side of this cubby to be to represent where you would put a cup holder. And I find it to be one of the wildest things to put in a car. There's no reason it should fly out like that. Like it should be damped in a way, because I don't know, it looks kind of dangerous. If somebody presses it by accident, if a kid presses it, I don't know. I think it's a bit extra.
Getting back to that storage space, I think what's missed sometimes is that space is perfect if you have a purse or a handbag. And a lot of cars, compact or not, they don't take into account handbags and purses. And like my wife, for example, in our Outback, she had to get, and her Crosstrek before, it's actually, she bought a hook that she could hang from the seat in between the seats where she could put stuff like a little pouch. And she exported that to the Outback when we traded. And
can you send me, is that an Amazon product that you?
I don't. So for a while she was obsessed with buying things on Temu. She was like, she plays a lot of mobile games, and Temu had like a mobile game where if you fed some fish and played with the fish, you would get like deals.
For real?
And she's very deal oriented. And so that was
I'm also deal oriented.
That was interesting for her, and I think she ended up getting it from there. That's where I think that one came from.
Okay. Well, I think my wife has the same issue with her Outback. She ends up putting it on the floor mat of the passenger seat, which is it's ideal. Okay in the summer, but in the winter that can get kind of mucky, right?
She also got hooks that hook into the headrest, so that in addition to this pouch between the seats, there's 2 hooks on the back where she can hang a bag and just reach back and grab it.
Oh yeah, I can't do that because there's a baby seat there.
Well, you could.
I don't want anything that my.
But it's not a baby seat on both sides.
Not yet. I don't know. But wow. I don't want anything that my child can like find and weaponize, which is his new favorite thing of doing. My goodness, this kid. Sometimes he gets in the back seat and he complains about his shoes being on or off or something like that. And he, instead of just like taking them off and putting them away, which I tell him, like, you can take off your shoes if you want. He will take them and he just doesn't want to hold them anymore or have them in his sight. So he just flings them. Imagine you're making like a shrugging motion with your hands. And they end up hitting me in the face, like in the back of the head. I get hit with shoes and boots.
Sammy, just drive with a helmet.
It's insane. And then he complains to me that he can't see his shoes or his boots anymore. And I'm like, buddy, I got it here.
Honestly,
you threw it at me.
You're slacking as a father.
I know, of course. Anyways, so those are the 2 things that I think the cargo space and at-hand storage in the Kona stands out to me. Another thing that I think is really nice is that in this top trim limited model, there are 2 12.3-inch gauge clusters. I know that you don't like the design element of having 2 screens, sorry.
Is it one gauge cluster? But does it look like one big screen across the dash? It looks
like one ginormous screen separated.
It just looks cheap.
But I think from a technology point of view, it looks pretty good. It's weird to see all of these unnecessary gimmicky features in a compact car. So, this thing also has that camera view when you turn on the signals. Totally unnecessary because the Kona is, it's supposed to be considered a subcompact or a compact.
And you have to look away from the road to look at those.
Yeah.
Which is what I don't like. Instead
of, just using your mirrors and glancing over your shoulder. But it's got these features, so that's worth pointing out. I just don't know, are we paying something? Is it a trivial price that we have to pay for that feature?
I don't think so, because it's tempting to think it's just software, right? But it's actually cameras.
Yeah, there's cameras.
And I'm assuming they're mounted on the mirrors. And if you're in a parking lot and someone takes your mirror off, your mirror is now more expensive to replace.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line for a lot of these safety technologies, is the sensors that are attached to them are not cheap.
This was causing issues with the F-150's blind spot monitor that was incorporated into the taillight, I believe. And a taillight is a frequently, cracked or broken or damaged item, right?
I have a taillight story for you. My father cracked the taillight on one of his F-150s, and I believe it was the 2019. And the replacement price from the factory was insane. Like I want to say like $500 per taillight.
Yeah.
And that was like just for the cover on the outside. So ended up he fixed it with tape for a while, and then he I think he found a used one somewhere. But you can get them online. You can get like jobber style replacements, but even those are not inexpensive. So that's just nuts,
So it is just one of those things that there's so many like features that are available in the car. I even have like ventilated seats on mine. Again, it's really, we talked about this. Maybe we haven't talked about it recently, but back in the day, Hyundai was really known for trying to deliver as many features as they could in their quote unquote affordable cars.
And they still do that.
I think the cars have gotten a little less affordable. I think at $35,000 or $36-ish thousand, this is not an entry level car anymore. But I guess relative to the average price of a new car, yeah, I guess it is still affordable. And they are still cramming features into it. So I think as a result, this is what I'm trying to say, is that it's still one of the best subcompact cars you can get. The highlights for me is the fact that you can get multiple powertrains. Not just a turbo 4 and a naturally aspirated 4, but front wheel drive and all wheel drive. Tons of cargo room, tons of in-car storage, and a decent array of technology and comfort features. So I do think it's among the best in the class. One of the weird things, as we mentioned, you talked about the Kia Seltos. I don't think that is as good as the Kona. I think there's something missing in that equation. Something to do with the refinement of the vehicle, something to do with the amount of sound deadening or just their CVT tuning that just does not touch me the same way that the Kona does.
Is there anything else you want to say about the Kona?
No, I think I'm done with it. And I'm really eagerly looking forward to our conversation next week with the Kicks, because the Kicks, let's be clear, the Kicks used to be a really affordable car. Now it's playing in the world of Konas, and we'll talk about what that.
Don't do next week's podcast this week. Okay. So I drove something that is not playing in the world of Konas. But it is the same size roughly, and that is the Lexus NX350h F Sport. And depending on which country you're in, it's either the F Sport 3 or the F Sport handling all-wheel drive. Which country do you think has which name?
What are the two options? Canada and US, right?
Yeah, no, there's Canada and Iceland.
F Sport Canada.
F Bjork 3.
Yeah, F Sport 3 Canada.
Yeah. Do you know there's no F Sport 1, Sammy?
I only know that because you told it to me right before we started the podcast.
There's an F Sport 2 and an F Sport 3, and that's it. And everything else is like limited and luxury and other things like that.
Limited. So is the limited the F Sport 1? No, I'm kidding.
No,
as a result, the F Sport 2 is really the F Sport 1, but you don't want to feel like you bought the F Sport 1.
The F Sport 1 was just so hardcore, they had to remove it from the market.
No, I think it's the other way around. It's a floor 13 on an elevator.
The F Sport floor is considered unlucky, and so they took it off. Took it out of the showroom. So I had not driven this version of the NX. I believe I have driven the plug-in. I don't remember. But I've driven lots of other NXs, lots of gas versions. The interesting thing about F Sport is it's the first time it's available for the regular hybrid. Like, you used to be able to get it for the gas models.
Yeah.
And then you were able to get it for the plug-in, which has a little bit more power. But the F Sport hybrid was always middle of the road, more focused on efficiency than anything else. So now F Sport comes in two different versions, at least in Canada. In the States, it's just F Sport handling all-wheel drive. But in reality, F Sport 2 and F Sport 3 in Canada, it just gives you options. Like, an F Sport 3 is an American F Sport with all the options. Like, you just can't order individual options in Canada.
Right.
No other real differences. The vehicle doesn't gain any power to be an F Sport. First of all, I should be clear. It's a compact SUV. It's based on the same platform as the RAV4 loosely. They have kind of the same hard points, but it has a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, a couple of electric motors, 240 horsepower. That's pretty decent. But for the F Sport, what you get as extras, it's really divided into two segments. The first is the actual mechanical changes, which are few and far between. The most interesting one is an adaptive suspension system. So Lexus has essentially adaptive sport shocks, but they also have these dampers at the front and rear of the vehicle that are for lateral movement. And those are installed for the F Sport.
Yeah.
And you also, I'm not sure, I don't know if the regular hybrid gets these, but it has a Sport Plus drive mode and a sport driving mode and paddle shifters, where you can access virtual gears, quote unquote, in the CVT transmission. Sammy, do you remember if the regular hybrid has paddle shifters? I don't think it does.
I don't think so either.
So in any case,
for me, I don't think for as what I remember, a regular hybrid version of a Toyota's come with a CVT, an eCVT, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think Toyota is one to fake its CVT gear, do those fake gear ratios on CVTs, right?
Okay, so they're doing
I don't think they do those very often. Very cool.
They're doing it here, but
they've jumped on board with like everyone else, I guess.
The more interesting part of this vehicle for me, and I'll get to the reasons why in a little bit, is the styling. I had this like really cool blue color, which was called Grecian Water, which I think is a hilarious name for the blue. It looks great. It has a different grille. The NX grille got weird recently. It's kind of like a vertical chain link kind of thing. And this one is more of a honeycomb. I think it looks good. It's got its own 20-inch rims. It has a few other styling tweaks inside. It has mine had a red and black, I believe it was black, two-tone leather with F-Sport badges everywhere, different steering wheel. It looks really good. I'm surprised by how much I like the styling of this F-Sport. I think it is by far the most attractive version of the Lexus. And
this
Canada,
is like the first time I've ever felt like an F-Sport trim has actually impacted the design of the vehicle.
Well, no, I think that in the past, the F-Sport has impacted in a negative way. I think if you look at like the RX, which is the next size up at crossover, it gets way too busy. Like there's too many angles on an RX already. And then you start throwing like, I don't know, wings or whatever. I can't remember what's on the car, but it gets too aggressive for what the body shape was originally intended. Whereas with the NX, they didn't hulk it up too much. It just looks a little beefier. And you also get painted fender flares instead of black fender flares. And I think that helps too. It's like more cohesive to look at. And the inside is nice. Like this interior, it's a luxury vehicle, right? But we're so used to these smaller luxury SUVs not really passing the muster when it comes to interior cabin. Like it's just like much of the switchgear reminds you of whatever more affordable vehicle it's based on. I did not get those vibes from the NX F Sport. It felt and it starts at, I believe, the version I drove just under 60 grand in the US. In Canada, the price was significantly higher. I want to say, I'm looking up the number now, but I want to say it was like, it was about 75,000. The base model starts under 60 Canadian. So that's a fair difference. A couple of other things I like about the interior. I mean, I mentioned the seats. They look cool. The dash has like a two-tone thing going on. The materials are nice. It's presents well, but we were just talking about my disdain for the dashboard stretching rectangle of screen that we see so often these days. And a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about the Genesis GV70 electrified that has that feature now, whereas in the past, it used to have an actual binnacle. Well, there's a binnacle in the Lexus. It has its own separate gauge cluster. And then there is a infotainment screen that is at the center of the dashboard, but it's in a frame and it's tilted towards the driver. And that frame also includes some buttons and controls and touch capacitive sensors for the climate control. So it feels like two distinct things. And I think that just seems more luxurious to me. It just looks like more thought was put into the design. It's not nearly as plain, especially when it's off. So I like that about the car.
Interesting. Is there something to talk about with the? Did you get a chance to use the native system on the infotainment screen at all?
Yeah, I use it all the time.
And how much did you enjoy instead of using like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay?
I primarily used Android Auto, but there were times where I didn't. And I found that with this car, I've complained in Toyotas in the past where they use too much gauge cluster menus to do things. And they bury a ton of settings, especially safety settings. I had this problem with I was going to say Pathfinder, with the Trail Hunter 4Runner.
Right.
Where there were a ton of like cryptically composed like PSWKs on or
acronyms for all the safety features.
Yeah, and you can't see what they are because it's on a tiny screen on the dash instead of the larger infotainment screen. For the Lexus NX, there was much more information on the infotainment screen itself. My only problem with the interacting with these features was the Lexus uses context sensitive pads on the steering wheel. And what
that's right. Yes.
What that means is you have these little joystick pads like you would have on a Nintendo controller, but depending on whether you tapped the button below them once or twice, it does different things. And those things are shown on the gauge cluster. So if you tap it once, it shows you what the controls are. You tap it again, it shows you how those controls are different. So you tap it once, maybe you can move from one media track to another, pushing left and right. If you tap it again, instead you're doing volume or you're doing something with your phone. It's kind of annoying because you have to look away from the road. Like, I don't want to guess at what these controls are going to do because I don't remember what setting they're on. Land Rover was the worst at this when they first introduced it, like maybe 7 years ago.
Yeah, because they have all these buttons that light up differently on the steering wheel, which is absolutely useless. Yeah.
So not only did you have to look away from the road, you had to look down at your hands.
You had to look down at your hand. You had to look down at the gauge cluster. You had to try to figure out everything.
Yeah. So in any case, good cabin, decent cargo space inside, decent passenger room in the back, although not the most passenger room in its class, I don't think. The driving experience. So here's where I don't think F Sport cuts the mustard. And I feel like this has always been the case with F Sport vehicles. But I'm going to be forgiving about it with the NX because I mentioned there's no extra power. I mentioned that it has the eCVT with the paddle shifters with the fake ratios. It's really weird to use them because if you put the transmission in sport mode, which gives you this different dash look display, and you're in Sport Plus driving mode, and it looks more aggressive, and there's lots of red on the screen. If you floor the gas and then it for some reason it puts a 4 on the screen. You're in 4th gear, I guess, whatever. If you downshift, nothing happens at full throttle. The revs stay the same and the acceleration stays the same. And then you shift back up to 4th gear and nothing happens again. But if you're just driving like somewhat aggressively, you can shift through the gears and it will change the engine speed. So it's almost like it's situationally dependent as to how it's going to react.
Not good.
That to me is like not an interesting experience. I will say that the engine is not thrashy at all. When you floor it, it doesn't sound all that bad, even though you're pegging a CVT, which is often a recipe for buzziness. But it didn't really happen in this car. The handling, the Sport Plus mode does noticeably firm up the suspension. You do feel like the vehicles is transmitting more bumps through the suspension into the cabin. Whether that translates into better handling, I don't know, because this is not a vehicle you drive aggressively. There's nothing about it that compels you to drive quickly. It's really something where I appreciate how comfortable it is as a commuter and just how confident it is. I had it on summer or all season tires in a blizzard, unfortunately, because we're getting weird weather thanks to climate change. That's made it completely impossible to predict what things are going to be like in the fall. And I had no problems with it. I mean, obviously it takes longer to stop. But in terms of handling and in terms of acceleration, it was fine. It handled slippery conditions very well. I was impressed by how it drove, but it was not sporty. So you're in this situation where I think the only real reason to buy the F Sport trim is for the looks. And you're getting this extra mechanical stuff that doesn't really do anything. I don't know if that's worth it to you. You'll have to decide based on your payment, like based on how comfortable you are paying the aggressive money. Because it's a lot of money in Canada. It's like 14 grand over base.
So this is the question I'm going to have. Is there still a place for the entry level, like, should this replace the entry level, like gas powered version of the
No, I don't think
NX?
So, because I think that they do different
things. That's what
things.
they're doing with the RAV4 on the Toyota side. There's not going to be a gas powered version. They're going to be hybrids now all the way.
From what I understand, I don't have the numbers in front of me. The gas powered NX is considerably more powerful. So if you want to have a vehicle that competes against the X3 or whatever, you're going to have that powerful turbocharged gas version. It just has to be there. Otherwise, you end up with the idea. Remember when Lexus was going to be the hybrid brand and everything was going to be hybrid, and that was their thing that was distinctive for them for a while? And then every other car company offered hybrids, but like in addition to gas models. And I think Lexus realized that it had to have both. It couldn't just be, it's like when Volvo was the safety brand and then everyone else became the safety brand and they couldn't use that as a distinction anymore.
Right. Yes.
But I will say, I do think that most people who are buying the NX hybrid are doing it for the fuel mileage. They're getting it because they want the fuel mileage. It's rated at 40 miles per gallon in combined driving. I saw 31 in very cold weather. That's not bad at all. So like the mileage is there. My two biggest complaints about the vehicle are related to its adaptive cruise control.
No way. Okay.
I had some weird stuff happen.
Do you think this has a lot to do with the weather or something like that? No.
Not well. One of them had to do with the weather, and one of them very much did not. The scarier one had nothing to do with the weather, and that was I was in bumper to bumper traffic with adaptive cruise on. It had been on for a while, and I was crawling through traffic, and the vehicle suddenly accelerated straight towards the back of a transport truck that was in front of me. I had to slam the brakes on, like I had to intervene.
No, thank you.
Then I also had someone, I was in the fast lane on the highway, in the left lane. The vehicle in front of the vehicle in front of me slammed its brakes on because it wanted to take a left-hand turn across the median into the other lane. And it slowed down from like, I want to say 100 kilometers an hour to like 40 or 30 in a very short period of time. I got a warning from the adaptive cruise, flashing collision warning. It never braked. It never hit the brakes.
Okay.
That scared me. I had to slam the brakes on there. And actually, I didn't stop in time. I had to slam the brakes on and go into the other lane and go around the cars that were in front of me. And I'm lucky there was no traffic beside me. So that was weird. I've not had an adaptive cruise control system fail in that manner since that Mach-E that I had 2 or 3 years ago that also accelerated into the back of a truck while Blue Cruise was on.
Right.
The other problem I had with it was weather related. It was more minor and it was more of an annoyance. But I was in snowy weather, and when it snows and when the snow sticks to the front of your vehicle, it can occlude a sensor, right? Mm-hmm. So the vehicle's parking system, and at one point it was the parking system, and at one point it was the collision monitor. It gave me a message on the dash saying sensors are blocked, features disabled. Please push this button and hold it to remove this message. I'm like, okay, I push that button and remove the message. 2 seconds later, it's back. I do it again. 2 seconds later, it's back. It turns out you can't remove the message, which makes no sense because A, why offer the chance to get rid of the message if you can't get rid of the message? B, there's another icon beside it that's lit up yellow telling me those systems are inactive. Right. And C, the message is so big, it takes up 50% of the center of the screen on the gauge cluster and blocks everything behind it. And it just stays there until the sensor cleans itself, or like it rains on it, or like the next day it's warmer and it's melted. So that was super annoying.
That is frustrating. I can't imagine, somebody who's spending all this money on a premium vehicle facing issues that are this kind of. Those are serious issues. Like a car, to me, when I'm commuting, I find myself using adaptive cruise control fairly frequently, and I need to be able to trust it. If I can't trust it, I can't, I don't know. I wouldn't know the best conditions to do it, right? There has to be a clear reason as to why something would stop working the way it's
supposed exactly. To be. And it's we're not even talking about like a hands-free self-driving system. This is just straight up adaptive cruise control. Mm-hmm. The least complicated of the cruise controls that control that do like automatically put distance between you and other vehicles. So that was very shocking for me. I can't recall having a similar problem in a Lexus in the past, or even a Toyota.
Yeah.
And I will say, completely clear weather.
How strange. So even though with those things happening to you, do you have the ability to recommend this?
I think so. I think people should drive it. I think it's a very different experience from German luxury vehicles of the same size. And if you're looking for that different experience, you should go for it. I don't, especially since it's a hybrid, something you can't necessarily find as easily in other showrooms. Price-wise, everything's expensive these days. I find this vehicle to be expensive, but the interior reflects at least some of the money you're putting down. It does not come across as disappointing, and it is a useful vehicle, genuinely useful. It almost looks like a hot hatch in this F Sport trim, and I think that's pretty cool. I can't remember the last time I thought the NX was attractive. I always thought it was fine, but it was never a vehicle that compelled me to look at it. And in this Grecian water blue, it definitely was a looker. So that all of that surprised me.
Very cool. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about this week?
I don't think so.
No. Well, I would like our listeners to head on over to our website, unnamedautomotivepodcast.com. While you're there, you can subscribe to our podcast using various buttons on the top of the page, but I would really recommend you check out our previous episodes, pictures of the cars we've been testing, and I really like it when people click on the contact form and fill that out and send us their questions or their feedback or anything that's going on with them that they want us to hear about. We love hearing from our listeners. You guys are super cool. You've got the coolest car stories around, and we love hearing them.
And you can also get in touch with us in other ways. You can email us the old-fashioned way, benjamin@benjaminhunting.com, or you can sometimes find Sammy and I on Instagram. I'm at huntingbenjamin, and Sammy is at Sammy_ha, like you're laughing. Sammy, you've already spoiled what we're going to be talking about next week, but do you want to remind everybody?
Yeah, next week we got the new Nissan Kicks. I think this is the first time we're talking about the Kicks at all.
We're both driving
the new generation Kicks.
Yeah, we love the old one so much, and the new one is so different. Yeah, so make of that different. What you will.
So, yeah, you're going to want to hear our thoughts on that for sure.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, everybody.
See ya.